Sam, it's great to have you with us. We are essentially seeing a massive geopolitical test for Bitcoin. One, is it passing? And two, what does it mean for the long-term role of crypto?
Yeah, well, look, I think the interesting thing about crypto is you see three different stories all occurring in the same area and same asset class. One is the traditional Bitcoin store of value asset case, which a lot of people talk about people in times of uncertainty looking to crypto and looking to Bitcoin in particular as a place to hold wealth. The second is effectively the tech story or the smart contracting story, which is the future of technology. And the third is just straight up speculation, right? And the reality is what we're seeing here is people are going back to, in some ways, the first question of cryptocurrency, which is when you think about Bitcoin as a store of value that doesn't exist with any one government, as you think about it as digital cash in the future of that, how do we think about that? Historically, countries have always had currency controls and thought about this stuff, but in the end of the day, you could never keep average citizens from trading cash between each other. How do we think about that in a fully digital world as you see certain countries and areas very rightfully trying to create higher currency controls and control digital exchange, and other narratives pushing back on that from a decentralized perspective? There's no right answer, but yeah.
Sorry, Sam, to cut you off.
After you.
Okay, I wanted you to sort of go into that role of crypto exchanges, because what this is showing us is that Bitcoin isn't exactly anonymous, but it is very transparent. And there are calls for Binance and some of the other platforms to freeze all Russian crypto accounts. But should crypto exchanges have to do more than traditional institutions like banks and trading platforms?
I'm not sure they should have to do more, but they certainly need to comply with the laws of the countries in which they're domiciled and who they operate with. The reality is with a thing like Bitcoin is, should individuals be able to trade Bitcoins between each other without an exchange, local Bitcoin style? Should I be able to make those exchanges? My view is that the right to free exchange is pretty fundamental to humanity. It's something we haven't historically seen challenged because it was impossible, but in the digital world becomes possible. I think it's a very important thing, just like free speech. But, should Coinbase have to follow the laws of the U.S.? Yeah, right? Like, I don't think there's anything, specific.
That's not the question, though, Sam. It's should they suspend all Russian accounts, right? I think that a lot of the platforms, all of them have said that they're going to, all the credible ones have said that they're going to comply with, people on the sanctions list. But the issue of sort of taking off an entire population, that's not something a bank would do.
No, I agree. And I think this is like part of the maturation of the crypto space and some of these financial institutions that are based around cryptos. How do you navigate this? The regulatory thing, you're right. It's easy, right? The answer is you comply. When you get into some of the more issues that are PR driven or policy driven or politics driven, that's for each of them to navigate on their own. Some will do it successfully and will do well from that. Others will probably mess it up and will have serious issues of trust or reputation as a result. But it's not an easy thing for them to navigate, that's for sure.
Isn't this, Sam, more than just an individual reputational issue? I mean, there's the potential for this to be crypto's Cambridge Analytica moment. I mean, if crypto becomes a means for Russia dodging the impact of sanctions, and the world writ large, particularly the Western world, blames it for that, won't that have an impact on policy?
Well, I think you got to separate out a few of these stories. One is, at the order of magnitude we're talking about as a country, crypto is nowhere near big enough for Russia to be using it to dodge sanctions as a country. It is still only about $2 trillion. When you're talking about the type of movements that's like a whole other level we're talking about, and crypto's not even close to capable of doing that. When you're talking about individuals who want access to free exchange digitally, look, I think this is a really big question of our time, which is we never before thought about governments and currency controls with such complete control as they now have in the case of the digital economy, the digital world. Would we want China having the one option where they can make unilateral decisions because of kind of a financial system with a single point of failure where they can make those calls? Probably not as Americans. Would we want on the other side, a world of absolutely no controls? That would be both dangerous and take away a lot of our basically political tools and our tools in this time. So the answer has to be somewhere in the middle. I do think it'll be challenging for individual exchanges, large institutions that have to navigate this. But if you go to the base level of, do we believe in free speech? And do we, at a very fundamental level, believe in individuals having access to free exchange? I mean, I know where I sit on that issue. And I think the reality is it'd be very scary for the world to come out of this and make the decisions that to indict crypto overall or the idea of free digital exchange because of this obviously very challenging political situation.